welcome back to Dancing in the Kitchen. I'm Ashley.
I'm Liz.
And today we have Lauren Alicia on with us to talk about postpartum nutrition, herbal healing for postpartum. And Lauren, you are a doula and then also an expert in herbal healing and medicine.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited you're here.
Thank you.
So we want to dive in and just pick your brain and learn all about this topic today. And I think a great place to start is, what is a doula for anybody that doesn't know? And you do, for anybody that doesn't know.
Sure, yes.
And there's different types of doulas, right?
Yes.
Like birth doulas, postpartum, and which do you do?
Yes, great question. So a doula is somebody who supports in educating about birth and postpartum. So there are birth doulas and there are postpartum doulas. Some people do both, some people do one or the other. I started with postpartum and then got interested in birth, so now I do both. So for postpartum, usually doulas help with things like lactation, nutrition, just support with baby, first-time parents, kind of teaching them different tips and tricks with baby, that emotional support, which is huge post-birth. And then for the birth side is a lot of prenatal education, planning for the birth, exploring like what your intentions are for your birth, and then executing the birth, being there during labor and delivery, and for a little bit, usually a birth doula will maybe visit you once or twice after just to check in, process the birth and everything like that. So yeah, those are the two kinds of doulas.
Well, and how did you get involved in being a doula? And do you do both or just one or the other? And then also, how did you get involved in herbal medicine?
Yes, great question. So I started my doula journey about 6 years ago. I was nannying, and coincidentally with newborns. And I kind of got a sneak peek into what was going on with the mothers postpartum, and I kind of was shocked. I was like, do people know about this? Like, this is intense. And it seemed...
What was going on?
I felt like it seemed like there was no support. It seems like I was the only person there, and primarily at that time when I was a nanny, my role was for the baby. But I began to be concerned about the mother. I noticed she wasn't eating till 1 p.m. You know, I had this one client who did suffer with postpartum depression, and when I left at the end of the day, I felt like, is she going to be okay? You know, I thought about her when I was at home. So I started to kind of step into that postpartum doula role of like, hey, can I make you lunch? Or like, how are you feeling today? Like, you know, I just really wanted to focus on the mom. And I had a client who recommended that I look into doula work because I was kind of like, she was like, you're more than a nanny, you know, you're really supporting me in the household, in the transition. And at that point, I'd never heard of what a doula was before. So I did a little research, I did a training, and I was like, wow, this is kind of what I've been doing innately. And I'm definitely passionate about it. So I started my journey there. And then I also noticed that the birth experience really led into the postpartum experience. I noticed that a lot of my postpartum clients who had a really traumatic or rough birth were experiencing a lot of difficulty in postpartum. So I thought it might be cool for me to get on the ground floor and help with the birth as well into the postpartum experience.
Smart.
Yeah.
Very smart.
Yeah, and also once you get like the birth bug, it's like so interesting. You want to learn everything about it. So I definitely got that. And so yeah, I do both birth and postpartum. And as far as herbal medicine, it was something that I grew up with in my home. It's a part of my culture. I'm Indigenous and Latin, and that was something that was always in our household is holistic medicine and herbs. Also, my dad was very focused on nutrition. He had a lot of knowledge in that. So it's definitely something that I grew up with, and it was instilled in me. But as I worked with women in this time period, I wanted to learn the science behind herbal medicine, and I wanted to do my due diligence and really understand how herbs work in the body, which ones are safe, which ones we should avoid, all that good stuff. And when we're speaking about herbs, we have to speak about nutrition, because you could take all the herbs you want, and if you're deficient and your body cannot absorb the medicine, it's pointless. So I definitely became passionate about nutrition as well.
That's awesome. Well, let's just follow that thread and let's talk a little bit more about what is recommended for nutrition for postpartum mothers and how you can use nutrition to support healing, and if that's like specific foods or even recipes you make, because hint, hint, we're sharing one of Lauren Alicia's amazing recipes in another segment. So please share.
Yeah. So I have like some pillars that I like to like go by for nutrition. One is calories. I think I see a lot of women just not eating enough. Especially if you're breastfeeding or, the body needs energy to recover. And nutrition is our building blocks for our body and our cells. So calories, I also like high fat, good fat, which is like, a whole topic in and of itself, which just means kind of like whole foods, nothing processed. And easy to digest. Very, very, very important.
That is a topic we've been talking about today.
Yes. So when we digest, a lot of blood goes to our stomach, and it's helpful that we have blood functioning throughout the body because, as we learned with Lauren Archer, breast milk is made from blood. So if you're really constipated or your body's really having to work to digest, it's taking away other functions of the body, which you need to heal after birth. So prioritizing easy to digest foods, and that might vary for certain people. I definitely like to do a customizable kind of diet for each person, because sometimes maybe a mom doesn't digest dairy, and maybe another mom loves dairy, and dairy is great. So we kind of like are flexible and in flow with that. And I always like to prioritize yumminess. I want it to be yummy and you're excited to eat, and it could be this like beautiful, nourishing experience to just like, put a little pep in your step if you're having a hard day. So those are kind of like the main three things that I focus on for nutrition.
Okay. And are there specific foods that are like really potent or really powerful for healing?
Sure, yes. I would say dark leafy greens, root vegetables, protein. Protein, very important. I feel like not a lot of people eat enough protein on a daily basis. But those are kind of my three: dark leafy greens, root vegetables, because they have a lot of iron, and protein, which also has iron.
Yeah, and that makes sense because protein is like the building block of all of our tissues.
Yes.
And if your tissue is trying to repair, that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And then what about, are there any foods that you recommend postpartum mothers avoid?
Sure, I would avoid anything that gave you stomach upset previously. So if like I mentioned before, if you're lactose intolerant, I would stick with avoiding that. To introduce something brand new into your diet in postpartum when things are just getting started again isn't the best idea. So I would say go with your like safe foods, and then anything difficult to digest. A lot of people won't eat a lot of raw foods, like things like raw carrots that are like a lot of roughage, which would take a lot for the body to digest. I think fruit, like hydrating fruit raw could be okay, but it's just like more of those, like a salad with like raw celery and carrots. We can save that till like a little down the line.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, and then what about being able to set yourself up for success postpartum?
Mm-hmm.
We were talking a little bit when we were cooking in the kitchen about sort of planning in advance, maybe batch cooking a stew or something and freezing portions.
Yeah.
Are there ways that you encourage moms to be prepared to support themselves with postpartum nutrition? Like if someone's not in the position where they can have someone come cook for them?
100%. Yes, I definitely, the clients that I have that I work with for birth who don't have me come postpartum, I always try to help create a plan for them. So like you mentioned, pre-making meals that hold well in the freezer. That's a great way to do it. Also creating a meal train if that's possible in your community. That's amazing. And also you can put in on meal train kind of like your guidelines of like, hey, I'm focusing on this kind of nutrition. Can things be in this vein? So that, someone's not dropping off something that wouldn't be ideal. And I also, if it's possible, having a family come and cook if that feels good for you. And I always recommend planning this before the baby comes, like not trying to figure it out the first week or scrambling, because that never works. Ideally before 38 weeks, I would say, because 38 weeks is like...
I'm 38 weeks tomorrow.
Yes! It's go time.
I'm prepared.
Yes, yes. I think a lot of people focus on birth, which makes sense. Of course, we want to be prepared. But postpartum is so real. And that's the rest of your life too, you know, with this new person in your family. So I think taking the time to really plan things out is the move.
It's true.
Awesome.
That's a good point. Like, this is a new member of the family. Like, you're having a totally different experience now. Like, you set yourself up properly for it.
Yeah. I feel like that's one of the ways in which my anxiety is kind of functional, because I'm like, I must be prepared because I don't want to end up in a situation that's worse than it needs to be. Right?
Totally.
What about the recipe that you shared with us, the congee?
Yes.
Is there anything you want to tell us specifically about the ingredients that are included, or that recipe and sort of its health promoting effects?
Sure. Yeah. So that specific recipe is from, well, it's kind of like a riff on the First 40 Days cookbook, which is a very popular postpartum cookbook, and it's based in Chinese medicine. So it's from that culture, and through my years, I've kind of riffed in the kitchen of like how I like to make things and also how my clients' taste buds are. So this was a super, super popular recipe as far as taste for the whole family. Usually, oh yeah.
Do taste buds change for pregnant women or postpartum or anything like that, or no?
I mean, I feel like sometimes people have food aversions in pregnancy for different reasons, usually like hormonal reasons, or all your organs get pushed up so you don't have a lot of room in your stomach. But postpartum, I feel like not too much.
Okay.
Although that does make me think about like breast milk and even amniotic fluid that can influence the development of a baby's taste buds and taste preferences. So based on like what you're eating postpartum, that can influence what your baby then later will be enticed by when they start solids.
Okay.
Totally. I think it's really important to have a varied diet, eat seasonally, and I think naturally people do crave these heartier, savory meals in postpartum, which the congee definitely is that. And it's hitting all the pillars. So the rice is cooked for a long time, so it's very soft, easy to digest. We have the shredded chicken in there, so high protein. We have root vegetables, carrots, ginger, which is great for the digestion. We have chicken stock in there, which is just added minerals, added iron. And again, it's very yummy. So
Yeah. Well, and I saw turmeric as well, so I imagine it's probably anti-inflammatory.
Anti-inflammatory, exactly. Yes, and yeah, I like to eat it, and I don't have any kids, so.
Yeah, that's the great thing about all this yummy postpartum food is it's good to eat anytime.
Yes.
Right.
Totally.
Also, let's kind of dive into the herbal medicine component. So I'm curious to know more.
Dance.